Welcome everybody to MindOut's webinar. It's in aid of World Mental Health Day, which is this Saturday, the 10th of October. And the theme for this year's World Mental Health Day is Mental Health for All. So we thought at MindOut we'd do a little webinar just unpacking what that means for LGBTQ communities. So what Mental Health for All means for our communities. So let's do some introductions. My name's Kate Webb. I'm the Deputy CEO of MindOut.
My name's Kitty. I've been a volunteer with MindOut since about January with the online support service, and I'm currently doing some cover work as the online support coordinator whilst Olivia is away on holiday.
Thanks, Kitty. So we're just going to chat together today and unpack some of these issues, looking at what that means for what LGBTQ mental health, what the issues are around that, what some of the different communities under that umbrella, the kind of mental health problems and what the difficulties are for particular groups. And then we'll talk a bit about MindOut, like what services we're offering, how we can help LGBTQ people access the services they need, and just hopefully talk about all of those issues together.
Yeah, so I was just going to ask you some questions today, Kay. The first question I wanted to know is, what does mental health for all mean for LGBTQ communities?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because LGBTQ people, we know that often LGBTQ people don't access mental health services, especially mainstream mental health services. I mean, part of that is because those services don't necessarily have the capacity to meet the needs of LGBTQ people. So there's issues of capacity, but there's also issues around sort of ignorance of LGBTQ people's needs. So often our communities can be reluctant to access mainstream services because they're, as I said, they're not necessarily particularly understanding of our needs. They may have behaved in discriminatory ways in the past. Often LGBTQ people are excluded and just feel further away from accessing the services they need. They're wary. On a sort of wider societal level, people experience quite a lot of may have experienced discrimination about their identities, and so feel scared that they're going to receive sort of active discrimination, or even if it's not active sort of hate, then that sort of ignorance can really feel like a microaggression. And all of these factors sort of mean that often LGBTQ people not only have higher levels of poor mental health and distress, but they're less likely to access the services they need. So it's a bit of a poor sort of collection of circumstances, really.
Yeah, of course. I think that makes sense. And you've actually kind of touched on my next question, but I wanted to ask what you thought about why it is that LGBTQ mental health is worse than mainstream mental health.
Yeah. So just a few basic statistics about that. The received wisdom is that at any one point in time, sort of 25% of mainstream society are going to be experiencing some sort of mental health problem at any one point. But it's higher for LGBTQ populations. It's about 40%. So we know that LGBTQ communities have higher levels of suicidal distress, may be more likely to use alcohol and substances to manage mental health issues, have higher levels of depression and anxiety. And all of this is not just because we're LGBTQ, it's because we experience quite a lot of other issues and difficulties and discrimination from society at large. So it's just higher levels of mental health issues, more exclusion, and it's just just a difficult situation, really.
Yeah. I also wanted to find out what you thought about what are some of the specific groups under the LGBTQ umbrella that struggle the most with mental health, and why is it that those specific groups struggle the most?
Yes. Well, one of the things that I sort of meant to say under the previous question is that often LGBTQ communities experience minority stress. And that is a sort of internal experience where you're you're maybe scanning the room, you're in a new situation, you're wondering whether there's any other LGBTQ people or not in the room. You're thinking, do I have to come out here? Am I going to be on the receiving end of any discrimination? It's just that sort of whole set of experiences and little stresses that we go through all the time, and adds a sort of a load onto our mental health. And it might not even be that people are expecting sort of hate, to experience hate crime or out and out discrimination, but just, is anyone going to notice, anyone to point, that fear of being exposed? And it's all around sort of, internalized shame that a lot of us just have grown up experiencing. There may have been bullying at school. Often when you come out, people get rejected. They're rejected by their families, that kind of thing. So all of that really is a kind of baseline that a lot of LGBTQ people are carrying around with them. And then under the umbrella, sort of some of the more vulnerable groups are bi people. So bi mental health is worse than lesbian and gay mental health. That was sort of discovered in Stonewall's survey in 2018 about a lot of LGBTQ people were surveyed about their own mental health, and it turned out that bi women have the worst mental health. Part of that, I mean, there's no, I'm not going to give I haven't got time to give comprehensive reasons for that, but a lot of that is that bi people experience discrimination from within LGBTQ communities. Their sort of sexual identities are sort of poorly understood. They might be seen as greedy or not able to make their mind up. They're often really invisible. There's all sorts of reasons. Other difficulties are, we're talking about people with intersectional identities. So like LGBTQ people of colour or QTPOC, people who not only are experiencing the issues that we've been talking about in terms of discrimination because of their gender identities or sexual orientation, but also racism because they're people of colour, and all of that just adds up to worse mental health. Again, just talking about trans communities, trans communities are experiencing a huge battering in the media at the moment. That's a real pressure on people's mental health, as well as not enough access to the healthcare pathways that people need. Again, a lot of ignorance with NHS professionals about what trans people's needs are in terms of health. So I suppose those are some of the groups within the LGBTQ umbrella that are likely to experience even worse mental health, higher levels of suicidal distress.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that's not necessarily known about. It's really important to sort of make some of these facts and figures visible.
Yeah, I think that's very true, and I think it's very important that that's what MindOut is doing at the moment and trying to share that information with other people. Obviously, with their services and stuff, that's kind of what they're trying to do. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the services and what it is they do and why it is that they work?
Yeah. So obviously MindOut is a mental health service. We are run entirely by LGBTQ identified staff and volunteers, and we are for LGBTQ communities. So some of the services that we have are, we've got advocacy. So often service users come to us, they're in crisis, they may have insecure housing, they may have some problems with their welfare benefits, they may be having a mental health crisis and need help getting the services they need. So they can get an advocate, a MindOut advocate, who will sort of go through what their options are, support them, talk them through with their rights, and help them resolve that particular crisis. And often people need that help before they can actually look at what's going to be supportive for their mental health. They need to get out of the crisis first before they can start, looking at recovery and getting better. We've got, well, I suppose in a way MindOut is like, we've got a whole sort of suite of services that act like wraparound care. So anyone can just get in touch with us and access like advocacy, counselling, our group. We've got a group work service. We've got an online support service, which we'll talk about in a bit. So we've got a range of services, and they've all been developed because of the users of our service saying, we would really like you to try and deliver this for us. So we do a lot of co-production, and our services are there to meet the needs, the emerging needs that people are bringing. So a lot of LGBTQ people are incredibly isolated. Although there's lots of stuff, although probably not at the moment with COVID. COVID adds an extra dimension of difficulty for people's mental health. But traditionally people have gone out on the scene, that's been an important part of people's social life. And often when you've got a mental health issue, you don't want to, the scene isn't a particularly safe or welcoming place. So LGBTQ people with mental health problems are ever so isolated. So some of our services try to bring people together to share their experiences so that they can get support from each other, build relationships, and bring people out of that sort of isolation. So we've got a peer mentoring service, and we've got our groups. One of the most important groups we run is Out of the Blue, which is a suicide support, peer support group, people experiencing sort of daily suicidal distress. And we just know that those sort of groups and those services really do save lives. And that's what MindOut's all about. Not just saving lives, but building people's coping strategies, their resilience, helping them get out of crisis, bringing people together to support each other, and exploring more about what is going to make them well in the future.
Yeah.
So we were also going to talk a bit about why they work, weren't we? Why do those services work? I think I said that an LGBTQ specific service and specific safe spaces are absolutely all important. We know from feedback from our service users that coming to MindOut, not having to explain themselves, not having to be misgendered or poorly understood, or not, that staff do know what about their identities and will listen to the experiences they're bringing, not make assumptions, but there is that level of understanding. That's absolutely crucial in MindOut's success and why our services work. Also because people have told us that they want those kind of services. I think those probably are the two main reasons.
Yeah.
And we're also flexible, and we don't have big waiting lists. People can come and get in touch with us, and they can see somebody normally within a week or two. Even with the counselling, it's not a huge wait. Although again, COVID has meant that because everything's had to go online, there's sometimes a bit more of a wait for things like counselling. But still, we're really responsive. And we really want you to get in touch. If you're worried about anyone, or if you yourself are experiencing any mental health problems, please get in touch. Even if you just want to talk, we've got a befriending service. And actually our online service is good for that, isn't it, Kitty? Do you want to say a bit about the online service?
Yeah, for sure. So our online service, obviously you were just saying a lot of what's changed with the services has been due to COVID, and things have closed down. It's been harder to come and see people and speak to people in person. With our online service, it's actually gone the other way, where we've had a lot more service users come in and use the online service because it's free and it's confidential and it's anonymous, and you can do it from your home, from your computer. It's basically instant messaging where you can speak to a volunteer like myself, or I think we've currently got about 20 different volunteers, all of who are LGBTQ, of course.
Yeah.
And you can come and speak to us, and we offer support and information and advice about a variety of different issues, anything you'd like to speak about, anything you'd like support on, even if you just want to come and have a rant about your day or your week, or you're just having a particularly bad mental health day. There'll always be someone to come and speak to. You can find our opening times on our website, on the MindOut website. Just go there, and then it will tell you whether we're open at that particular time, or what time we're next open. We're normally open, I think we're running on average about 2 sessions a day at the moment, because we've got quite a lot more. And we've got, so our online support volunteers, I think we've almost doubled in the past 3 or 4 months, I would say. And with that, we've obviously got more volunteers, means more diversity. So we've got more diversity in the LGBTQ identities, different gender identities, different sexualities, which means there is going to be someone there probably who can help you talk through a specific issue that might be related to your particular identity.
Yeah.
And we're running different theme sessions at the moment, a lot more theme sessions for those reasons as well. The diversity means we can run more diverse theme sessions. So we're doing a BIPOC session, a trans specific session. We've just started a non-binary gender diverse session. And we're also trying to make sure we've got people who are there to speak to people of different ages. So we're doing an under 30 session, and I think we're doing a 50s plus session, and we're working on doing a 50s plus session as well. And it's basically, the service is just there for anyone who would like to speak to someone. And of course, like you were saying earlier, Kay, it's really important for LGBTQ people to have a safe space where they can come and speak to someone who shares in life experience, I suppose, and someone who's just there and understands and has maybe been through similar things, or can just relate in some sort of way. And I suppose particularly lately with COVID, it's been really important. That's why I said it's grown so much, the service, because with COVID, everyone's been at home, it's been difficult. Lockdown's been difficult for everyone, but for LGBTQ people, a lot of that has been being stuck in homes, or having to go back with your parents, your families, places where you don't feel safe, or people that are discriminatory towards you. They don't accept your identity. They don't accept you as a person, which obviously can have such a huge impact on your mental health.
Yeah, brilliant. So I think we're almost done. So I really hope that we can celebrate, I know we're talking about difficult issues here, and, high levels of bad mental health and stuff, but at the same time, a lot of people that come to MindOut, they come in a crisis, they're having a really difficult time, they get the services they need, and they're able to move on from that. And a lot of our service users do actually become our volunteers, don't they, as well, yeah. Which is a really great stepping stone, and people always want to sort of give something back. People, I find, are really sort of grateful from the services they receive from MindOut, and then they go on to be volunteers, and then again move on to do something else. So it's like a really lovely sort of cycle of getting well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of those experiences.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and the other thing MindOut does, of course, is to campaign for sort of mental health for all. So I know that a lot of what people are talking about this year for World Mental Health is what we can do for our own individual mental health. So we all experience mental health. We can all do stuff to look after ourselves and for self-care. But I think, for us, it's about the activism and the social justice sort of element of MindOut and what we're doing, that we're campaigning for a world where LGBTQ mental health is on an equal basis to everybody's mental health, where it's important, where we're all looking after each other. We're all, as communities and as a wider community, that we all care about LGBTQ mental health, and we're hoping that that can be there, that can be present as an issue on Saturday, as much as everyone taking responsibility for their own mental health, because it's a societal issue, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think it's also important to look at the positive things and think about the future as well, which actually kind of leads me to my next question. I just wanted to ask what you thought about, or is there anything in particular that you're excited about that's coming up with MindOut? Anything new, or just something that you think is to look forward to?
Yeah, some of the things that I've been really proud of this year is our relationships group. We've been doing some piloting relationships counselling. We had a really great relationships group. You know, that's a big issue that comes up for a lot of people, and I know it does on the online service, like difficulty sustaining relationships, and feeling just really, often people feeling really upset about that, and like low self-esteem about whether or not they can cope with relationships. So MindOut's work on relationships is really important. We've just done this, we've just spent time working on an anti-racism work plan, and we're really hoping to deliver a POC, people of colour peer support group in the new year. So we're really looking forward to that, sort of planning for that. And I know you're helping doing some work on that, Kitty. And we've got a celebration event coming up in November, which will be lovely as well, just to look back on the work of MindOut and in the last year. So that's coming up in November. So do check out our website. Do come and, you know, access the online support service if you need to. We're generally open 5:30 to 7:30. It's different times at the weekend. So log on to the website and you'll see a pink bubble with the next time that the online service is open. So shall we say bye then, Kitty? Thanks very much for chatting with me today about these issues, and
of course,
hope everybody has a great day on Saturday. Thank you.